So this is a diversity summit, and I want you to know that there are all types of things that make us diverse. Of course, our gender, our ethnic backgrounds, sometimes our disabilities, and I have a disability that we had to deal with in the very beginning of this session before it started. As you will note, there is a podium that is now on the floor because not everybody is 5 feet and above. And I was not going to try to figure out how to moderate, and you guys couldn't see me. So we had to work it out, and in the future, I think the convention center will remember not everybody is 5 feet or more. So welcome, everyone. I am Janine LaRue. I am the moderator for this afternoon. I'm former Casino Control Commissioner over gaming in the state of New Jersey, former vice chair of that commission, worked with a few governors. Most recently was the deputy chief of staff for Governor Corzine, and just recently retired as the vice president of public affairs for Rutgers University. I'm now doing my part-time thing as a lobbyist and having a lot of fun. And happy birthday to me. Tomorrow I'll be 61, and I'm loving every second of it. We have an amazing panel here today. We have people sitting before us. We have the very far to the left liberal, the very far to the right conservative, the professor in France, you know, all kinds of things. And hopefully some of you are texting and tweeting and all of the things to let people all over this country know what is happening in this session. What I'm going to do right now is the rules are very simple. Each of our panelists will give a 5-minute intro. I'm just going to say something very briefly about each of the panelists. I would ask you to refer to your programs so that you can see the long version of who they are and all of the amazing things they have done, but I can guarantee you not one of them would be sitting here before you this afternoon unless he or she was an expert in his or her own right. After the 5 minutes, then we are going to go through a series of questions that even I can't wait to hear what our panelists have to say about these questions. And then we're going to turn it over to you so that we can hear from you. So that's the way we're going to conduct today's session. We're going to start with an interview of Professor Marie-Christine Povels, a French associate professor of American Studies, a graduate of the French Grande École. Did I say that correctly? Probably not. Close, but no cigar. Okay. And she's a PhD in American literature. She's currently teaching in the Department of Foreign Languages of the University of Paris-Ouest Nanterre, La Défense in France. Welcome, Professor, over technology. We're going to ask you if you would just give us 5-minute intro. Tell us what's on your mind, and we'll get you some questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and hello from Paris to everyone in the room. I can't see anyone, so this is kind of uncomfortable for me, but I know the connection is working, so I'm going to start with a small introduction. First of all, saying that I'm very honored to be invited to participate in this seminar. As Ms. LaRue said, I've been working in American Studies at the University of Paris for over 20 years now, and my research work has mostly focused on issues of minority integration. Can you hear me correctly, or should I speak louder?
You're doing just fine, Professor.
Okay. So, I have published on different topics related to minority issues, on affirmative action, on percentage plans, more recently on discrimination in the banking sector. And I wrote a piece on diversity management in 2007, which I presented at a conference at UCLA on the 10th anniversary of Proposition 209, which the diversity management, which I saw as an interesting development in the shifting rhetoric around affirmative action and the anti-discrimination efforts of the United States for the past 50 years. And I was also at the time very much interested in the rising awareness of minority issues in my home country, France, and the very dissimilar ways in which both our countries deal with these issues, with these problems, because contrary to what you may think, we in France do have some sort of affirmative action, but it's not race-based, it's social, it's territorial, it's more neutral, it's less antagonizing, and we have proactive policies which are aimed at basically three categories of citizens. I'm not going to elaborate, but very quickly: the economically disadvantaged children, women in politics, and the disabled. So very briefly, let me give you a very short definition of what I see as affirmative action and diversity. I think, and you'll probably follow me on this, that the definition of affirmative action has shifted over time. And I think semantics are important to understand the controversies today and the backlash that affirmative action has been undergoing. The original intent, of course, was to integrate disadvantaged minority groups by taking all sorts of proactive steps, and I'm not talking about preferential treatment. Of course, this is important. Preferential treatment should not be mentioned at the beginning. So proactive steps, a way to repair past injustice and to right past wrongs. And of course, we all know that the first beneficiaries were the African American community. Then women, then other disadvantaged groups were added into the mix. And I would say that affirmative action has a very important moral dimension, together with also an implicit time limit. It's as if for the first agents of affirmative action, they thought that in some near or not so near future, affirmative action measures would no longer be needed. Okay? So the problem is that by adding layer upon layer upon layer of new beneficiaries, including new immigrants, gradually the meaning and the purpose of affirmative action became more and more blurred, less and less legible, visible, and radicalization started around affirmative action in the 80s. We see now the definition of affirmative action is not clear to many people. It means quotas, it means reverse discrimination. Well, you all know this better than I do. Diversity, on the other hand, is much more consensual. It's replaced the idea of reparation of past injustice since 1978, because in the Baki case, the Supreme Court, the famous Supreme Court case, diversity has now become the rationale for affirmative action. So it's more consensual, it's less polarizing, and also it values differences. And this is, I think, one of the main differences with affirmative action, in that diversity makes differences an asset and no longer a problem. So I think that this is very important, and in businesses, which I've been studying also, affirmative action is more government initiated. I'll have time to elaborate on this later perhaps, while diversity management is more company driven. So to conclude very briefly, because I'm sure I've finished my 5 minutes time, I think diversity management, or diversity in general and diversity management in particular, gets rid of the stigma which is attached to current anti-discrimination policy and affirmative action, because it lays the stress on business benefits, right? Organizational efficiency, on market performance, the famous quote-unquote business case for diversity that we see here. It makes good business sense because it presents minority integration not so much as a burden, but in positive light. It's a positive thing to do. So market forces are here to determine anti-discrimination tool. Yet, and I will have time to elaborate during the panel discussion, I hope this is very ambiguous and there are many pitfalls. So these are my first views on the topic. Thank you.
Doctor, thank you very much. And I am sure you are going to receive some questions on some of the differences, the distinctions that you have made between affirmative action and diversity. Thank you very much.